I just want to make sure that we are able to stay on our schedule. So if everyone is ready, if you need a couple more minutes, that's totally fine. But I think we're going to try and get going on our next session, which hopefully will be a tasty one. I think we're going to have some samples for everybody to try at the end of a recipe that we have created for today. But today's next session is on nutrition and liver health. It's something that is very important when discussing liver health. So I am excited to be able to talk to you about all of that today. So what we're going to cover today, I don't know if you can hear me. There we go. What we're going to cover today is looking at understanding your liver a little bit, fatty liver disease and its progression, impact of lifestyle on liver health, and then we're going to have a little game, and then Holly will be giving us a cooking demo for our tasty treat today. So looking at the liver, it is nestled in the upper right quadrant of your body, and it is the largest internal organ, about the size of a rugby ball. It is the powerhouse of our body. It has over 500 daily functions, so it really does a lot for us, and it is really essential to our day-to-day life. It is an incredibly resilient organ, and it is able to work even when 2/3 of it has been damaged and can even regrow. So your liver processes everything that you eat, drink, breathe in, or rub on your skin, which makes it very important to stay healthy. So you can see on this trend how there is an increased average cost as fatty liver disease has increased now that it is affecting 1 in 4 Canadians, which is up from just 1 in 10 a decade ago. The liver's health is really a mirror to reflect our overall well-being. And in a world where liver disease is rising, it tells us to listen to our bodies, protect our liver, and in turn safeguard our overall wellness. So what is fatty liver disease? I'm sure many of you have heard, that you might have it, or you may know somebody that has it, but it is known as either MASLD or NAFLD, and it is when fat builds up in the liver with no alcohol being the main cause. It often has no symptoms, but it can lead to inflammation and scarring, and the risk factors may include obesity, diabetes, high cholesterol, or cardiovascular disease. The good news is about fatty liver disease that it is often preventable and manageable with lifestyle changes. So if it's not managed properly, liver disease can progress. It might turn into steatohepatitis, which we heard a little bit about from Dr. Tan earlier, which is inflammation in the liver. And that can occur when we start to get more and more fat builds up, and that can cause some damage if it's not properly addressed. If it continues to further progress, we might end up with fibrosis, which is scarring of the liver, and if that continues to progress, it can turn into cirrhosis, which is towards the end stage of liver disease. However, there is lots that we can do to prevent it from getting to that stage. So really the main things that we can do as preventative measures in the early stages of liver disease are to move and eat for our livers. So I'm going to talk a little bit about movement first, and we have heard a little bit about this earlier today, but the exercise goal for most people is 150 minutes or about 2.5 hours of exercise per week. The exercise intensity is something that's going to get your heart rate up, so something where you're feeling not totally out of breath, but maybe it might be a little bit harder to talk, you might have flushed cheeks, or you might be feeling like your heart rate is a little bit higher. And really it can be any kind of cardio, aerobic, or strength-based exercises that you like. Ideally strength-based training incorporated twice a week just to help with our bone health as well. You can do things like formal workout classes, walking, gardening, house cleaning even can be great forms of exercise. Body weight exercise, it doesn't always have to be hitting the gym with the heaviest weights you can find. Dancing or hiking are all really great ways to get some of that exercise in. And really finding what works for you is most important, because what we want more than necessarily meeting 150 minutes a week is sustainability. So working towards exercise goals in a way that works for you and your health and what you would like to achieve. So some of you might have seen this healthy plate model before. It's usually what dietitians like to bring out as a way to get people to understand a little bit more about how to structure their meals in a way that's going to be friendly for your liver, and friendly for your overall well-being. So when putting a plate together, opting for a colorful array of fruits and vegetables, which are healthy and rich in antioxidants, also usually delicious if you can cook them or prepare them the right way. Those are great for maintaining liver health. And when picking proteins, lean meats, fish, or plant proteins like beans and legumes, tofu, things like that, are great for building blocks for the body without adding too much additional animal fats or saturated fats, which we want to try and limit. Using frozen or canned options of different food groups can be a great way to get something a bit more affordable, long-lasting, or even shelf-stable if sometimes you might not have access to refrigeration if you're traveling or moving. Those are still ways that you can kind of incorporate a liver-friendly diet. And adding moderate amounts of healthy fats, so if you're using an oil, for example, think maybe a couple of tablespoons, can be helpful in maintaining your liver health as well, because we do need some fat, but we want to try and keep it in healthy fat. So those can look like oils that are going to be liquid at room temperature. So usually things like olive oil, vegetable oil, sesame oil, things like that. Sometimes using coconut oil or other animal fats can be good for adding flavor, but they are saturated fats, so we want to just make sure that we're limiting those a little bit more. And rounding out a meal, we have some sort of carbohydrate, whether that's a whole grain or a complex carb. That's really what provides your body the energy it needs to function. Our brains use fully carbohydrates to be able to function, so carbohydrates are a very important part of our diet. And it also eases the liver's load in metabolizing food when we choose carbohydrates with a little bit more fiber. So that could be anything from whole wheat bread or a whole grain tortilla. Potatoes and sweet potatoes have a little bit more fiber as well. And you can have rice. Popcorn is great. Popcorn is something that people don't always realize is a whole grain and actually has quite a bit of fiber, so it's a great choice for a snack. Obviously limiting the amount of added salt and butter that we put on it, but it can be really delicious. Oats can also be a great way to add some extra fiber and complex carbs to a meal. Doesn't always have to be at breakfast time. You can have savory oats, or if you want to have breakfast for dinner, that can work as a good substitute as well. And if you're not sure what to drink, never go wrong with choosing water. It's the liver's best friend and helps flush out toxins naturally. And sometimes we might have alcohol with a meal, but as Dr. Tan mentioned earlier, having less than 2 drinks a week is best for liver health. If you don't have liver disease, anything over 7 drinks a week is when we really start to see quite an increased risk of harm, both to the liver and the body. And if you do have liver disease, no alcohol is best. So, not everyone is able to always afford a liver-healthy diet. I know that the current prices of groceries are a little bit scary for a lot of people, and it can be tough to juggle all of the different priorities that we have as part of, living our day-to-day lives, and groceries can certainly be one of those challenges. So there are definitely ways to make this a little bit more affordable for people, some tips and tricks where you can maybe get to those liver-healthy foods without having to break the budget. So planning meals for the week, I know it's very, very obvious to a lot of people, but it can really be helpful in kind of taking some of that day-to-day burden off. It might reduce your chance of ordering in, and it can still manage to keep you on track with your liver and health goals. So utilizing what you might already have at home, seeing what's in the fridge and the pantry, and using some of those items up first as part of your meal planning can be a great way to reduce your costs. Using up perishable items first, like fruits and vegetables, adds a little bit of extra fiber and nutrient content. Shopping with a list and not going to the grocery store hungry. I know it's really hard to do sometimes if you're, on your way home from work or school or whatever it's going to be, and you're like, I'm just going to swing by the grocery store, pick up dinner. Oftentimes you end up buying more and usually higher fat, higher processed food options than you might if you go to the grocery store with a list and maybe not as hungry. But prioritizing whole foods on that list when you're able is really helpful. And this can still include frozen or canned items like fruits, vegetables, proteins like fish or meat, lentils, even frozen or canned options like bread or potatoes can be a little bit more affordable for some people, but that still falls into that kind of whole foods category where you're going to get more of that nutrition. Dried options as well can be helpful, like beans or rice. Sometimes it can be cheaper to buy those dried and boil them or prepare them yourself. And they can also be a bit more shelf stable, so they can live in your pantry a little bit longer and kind of help when you're looking to do that meal planning. There are also different ingredients where you can try and get them on sale, or considering stocking up when they're on sale, especially for non-perishable items. So, if canned tuna, rice, beans, things like that are on sale, sometimes it can be helpful to get a few extra if it's within your budget, and then that can kind of help save some of those ponderings for later on in the week or the month when you're trying to come up with meal ideas. For anyone who might be Indigenous, sometimes people get misconceptions that Indigenous food cannot be considered part of a healthy liver diet, but it can, very much so. A lot of traditional foods already fall into a liver-friendly diet. Fish and seafood provide protein and healthy fats. Lean meats like venison, moose, caribou, and other lean meats are great sources of protein, as well as a lot of the essential vitamins and minerals that we might need. And a lot of traditional foods are often combined with others to make complete proteins or complete meals where they can have a lot of nutrition available to them. Temperature control is something that people don't always think about. Sometimes people's fridges are a little bit finicky, but storing food at the right temperature prevents and can reduce spoiling. So if you're freezing meat and bread, you can preserve them for months if it's done right, usually wrapping them properly and making sure that they're not getting any air trapped, which can cause freezer burn and things like that, which often makes food no longer appetizing, or you might not eat it if it's completely freezer burned. I know that is the case for a lot of people. Canning or freezing fruits and vegetables, either to use in soups or smoothies. You can make them into jams and spreads, provided that they don't have too much added sugar. A lot of fruit has its own natural sugars and pectins, so you can make a lot of really great jams and spreads really with fruit basically on its own. And those can kind of provide an extra way to use up some of those products that you might have lying around without wasting them. You still get a lot of the nutrition from them, and it makes it a little bit easier to work through them if you're buying them in larger quantities. And then understanding dates. So there is a difference between best before dates and expiration dates. Usually what's on the packet in the store is a best before date. So that really just goes to show what date that food will taste the best at, or is kind of used as a record for the store to make sure that they're switching their food out in an appropriate manner. But even if it's at the best by date or maybe a couple of days after, that doesn't necessarily mean that the food's gone bad. So that can be a great way to save some money if sometimes things are on sale. And again, either freezing or utilizing them first can be helpful in saving some money as well. And then for those that are maybe a little bit more tech savvy, utilizing grocery apps. If you have a smartphone, there are a lot of really great free apps that can be used to find deals, earn points, and manage grocery lists effectively. A lot of them are very user-friendly if you're looking to get into them, and they can be found in most app stores, so they're pretty easy to download as well. They can really do a good job in helping budget and prioritizing those liver-friendly foods based on the deals that might be available. So a quick game for everybody, and this is just by a show of hands. So based on what we've talked about today, how much of your plate should be fruits and vegetables at each meal? So who thinks A? Oh. Is it too zoomed in now? Can people see it now? There we go. So who thinks it's the whole plate? Who thinks it's half a plate? Perfect. Third of a plate, anybody? Or a quarter of the plate? Yeah, so it is, gotta zoom out here. It is half a plate. So as we talked about a little bit earlier, based on that plate model, half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. So I know it sounds like a lot, but it's honestly not as hard to get in as you might think. It doesn't have to be the biggest mound of salad that you've ever seen, or, eating a whole head of broccoli or cauliflower, but, looking at the proportions of the rest of your plate, trying to get half of that plate to be fruits and vegetables means that you're getting lots of nutrients, lots of fiber, lots of color, and those are really important in maintaining a liver-friendly diet. So let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more here for people to see. How much exercise do we think we need a week based on what we talked about? Yeah, I might have switched these up on the next one, but you're right, it is D. Lots of people got that right. I'm hearing them in the crowd. So it is 150 minutes or 2.5 hours. And like I said, it might seem like a lot, but it really isn't. If you're going for a walk every day or every other day, you can get that exercise in. If you're taking, a couple exercise classes a week, if you're, spending all day gardening on the weekends, ideally getting some exercise in a few times a week, between 3 and 5 times a week, just means that you're getting enough throughout the week, that you're not overloading your body and also keeping things moving properly. But, finding what works for you is really important in keeping that sustainable. And question 3, canned and frozen fruits, vegetables, and proteins can all be good sources of nutrition. True or false? Who thinks true? Excellent, excellent. You guys know what you're talking about. Oh gosh, where do we go? There we go. So yes, it is true. Obviously looking for canned products that are lower in sodium, lower in oils or added fats can be helpful in just reducing things like added sugars or salts, because those can impact the liver. But, packing tuna in water or having, canned beans or lentils that are no salt added, having canned fruits that are no sugar added or not packed in syrup can all be great ways to still get some of those fruits and vegetables that we need without it being a budget breaker. And then, which of the following do we think can help plan budget-friendly meals of these 4? Who says meal planning? Yeah. Who says using coupon apps like grocery apps? Buying in season? Or all of the above? There we go. Yeah, it is all of the above. Obviously, there are multiple ways that we can, make those things work in our favor. So whether it's using some of these or all of these to make your budget go a little bit further when you are trying to, do your grocery shopping, have a liver-friendly diet. Obviously, those are really important, but we also understand that there's, some challenges for certain people sometimes. So utilizing the strategies that work for you and that are available to you can be really helpful in making that fit into your lifestyle. So just a few key points about what we've talked about today. Exercising about 2.5 hours a week is really important. Getting in a couple times a week strength training can help with not only liver health, but bone health. Nutrition is important, whether that's, focusing on fruits and vegetables, complex carbs, or proteins. All of those are really key in keeping our livers functioning properly. Early detection and management of liver disease, like we talked about at the beginning, so making sure that we're catching things early so they don't get to progress a little bit further into, inflammation or cirrhosis. We want to try and, utilize the tools that we have in our toolkit about lifestyle management to be able to prevent things from getting worse. And making affordable lifestyle changes that are sustainable for you is key in making sure that you're going to have really the best shot at keeping things going that are going to benefit your liver in a good way. So I want to turn it over to my colleague Holly here, who's going to be providing us a little bit of a live demo of a really delicious recipe that we will have samples for at the back for those that would like to try it. So yeah, take it away, Holly.
Thank you, Anisha. So for those of you who I've not met yet, because I just arrived a little bit later, my name is Holly Ninekamp, and I'm a part of the marketing and communications team at the Canadian Liver Foundation. So I'm very excited to demo one of our liver-friendly recipes for you today. We have over 25 liver-friendly recipes on our website. We develop a new one every single month. All our recipes are developed by our in-house nutritionist, or Anisha. She's also developed several of the recipes, and all recipes are approved by a registered dietitian who specializes in liver health. So one of our goals is to really make sure that we're providing recipes that could actually benefit someone who's living with liver disease or someone who's just wanting to be better to their liver and give their liver a little bit of extra love. So the recipe I'm doing today, it's called Magic Carrot Muffins. We call it Magic carrot muffins because the recipe itself, it has very simple ingredients that you would find in your pantry, and there's substitutions for those that you might not have to make it as easy as possible for you. We don't want you to have to go out to the grocery store to buy expensive ingredients or different ingredients than what you might already have in your pantry. The recipe also doesn't have any flour. We're using oats in place of that, and we are using a banana with just a little tiny bit of maple syrup for that little bit of sweetness. So the muffins themselves are a little bit more dense, but they do have warm flavors like cinnamon and allspice, which you might find in your traditional carrot cupcake or carrot cake or carrot muffin. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So this recipe, it is a blender or food processor recipe. However, if you don't have one of those tools, because we know not everyone does, you can easily make it in a bowl. The texture will just be a little bit more like a baked oatmeal compared to like a cake batter or a muffin batter. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm going to add half a cup of oats right into my food processor. Next, I'm going to add our spice blend. So in here I have a teaspoon of cinnamon, half a teaspoon of allspice, a pinch of salt, sea salt, and a half a teaspoon of baking powder. So as you can see, everything goes right into the food processor itself, so no mess with bowls or other utensils. I'm then going to add 1 banana. So usually I'm making half a recipe today just because of the size of my food processor. But normally you'd use between 1.5 or 2 small bananas, 1.5 large bananas, or the recipe also works with 2 larger bananas. It's a really fail-proof recipe. So going to add that right in. I'm also going to add in 1/3 cup of unsweetened almond milk. You can also use just regular dairy milk if that's your preference, oat milk, soy milk, those also work really, really well. Next, I'm going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And before I give this a quick blitz, I'm going to add in half a cup of unsweetened, all-natural almond butter. You can also use peanut butter or any kind of seed butter if you do have any nut allergies. Peanut butter also works really great. You kind of get a more peanut butter and banana combination, which is always great. Okay. So I'm going to, and my little bit of, so in here I have 2 tablespoons of pure maple syrup. I've also made this recipe with half of that, and it works out really well. You just want to make sure that you're using bananas that are a little bit more on the right side. And you could even eliminate that maple syrup altogether if you have really beautiful ripe bananas. Oh, it's already going. Okay, so I'm going to give this a blitz. Should be good. You're just looking for it to break up the oats, and we're going to mix it again once we add in the rest of our ingredients. So next I'm going to add in 1 egg. Oh. Never perfect when you're demoing a recipe in front of people, but that's okay. And I'm going to give it another quick little whirl just to get the egg mixed up. And lastly, to make it those carrot muffins, I have a 1/4 cup of packed shredded carrot. I do recommend shredding the carrot just because we are adding it at the end. And this way you're just going to have little specks of carrot throughout as opposed to like chunkier carrots. And let's see if I can get my lid on. I always struggle with these food processors. There we go. That should be good. So now what I would do at this point, the recipe is done. You can see that it is a very loose texture. It looks very similar to cake batter. And you can see how quick I put that together and how quickly it came together. My favorite way to make these is to turn them into mini muffin forms. And this half recipe, it makes about 18 mini muffins. So they're really great for a quick snack throughout the day. I've even had them with breakfast and added a little bit of yogurt and berries and crumbled up the muffin, and they've been really delicious that way as well. And so you would take the batter from here, put it in your muffin tins, and cook it, if you're doing mini muffins, for about 15 minutes. If you're doing larger size muffins, it would take you about 22 to 25 minutes depending on your oven, but you stick a toothpick in to see if it's done, and that's usually a great way to see if muffins are ready. And these cook up just like regular muffins. They rise and they don't sink, so they're really great. We did actually bring some samples for you of these muffins, and if you're interested in giving them a try, they're on the back table, the snack table, and we also have a recipe card for each of you to try the recipe on your own if you enjoyed it today. And I will also mention that this recipe is actually not currently listed on our website, liver.ca. You're getting a sneak peek today of this new recipe that's going to be a part of our Healthy Liver Pantry guidebook, which is coming out at the end of June. And this is a recipe book. You'll be able to find it from our social channels in the summer or our website. This book has a number of liver-friendly recipes that are all new for this year, and it also gives you some more nutrition tips there as well. So we're happy to answer any questions if you have about nutrition or the recipe itself. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Holly. That was fantastic. If anyone, if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to come up and ask them. Or if you have any questions later on, you're more than welcome to reach out to me as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.